Alrighty. Today I'm going to try to explain servers using a everyday relatable experience. So I do understand that servers can be confusing, and that's kind of why I started this. I've been trying to do a better job understanding the IT industry. I do work in the IT industry, so I was trying to understand more about not just computers but servers, and they definitely are confusing. So I was trying to think about them in different terms, so I came up with this idea. So I hope it's helpful for not just myself but for others. So we have to start with the idea that the data has to live somewhere, and that it's all about data flow, right? So when we start thinking about servers, it's all about how data moves from one point to another. So data flow, right? So keep that in mind as we talk today. And as I said, the data has to live somewhere, right? So it can't just be in no man's land. It's going to be either on your personal computer storage, it's going to be in a server, it's going to move to and fro, to and fro. So the relatable idea is going to be a restaurant. So we're going to talk about a restaurant, the components of a restaurant, the waiters, the customers, and we're going to relate that to a data center, a server, and a server client being a PC. So let's get into this. So restaurant's going to represent the data center as a whole, right? So that's all encompassing. So what happens in the restaurant, what happens in the data center, that's an all encompassing idea we're going to use. And then we have waiters. And within this restaurant, what's unique about it is each of the waiters is going to have a different menu. Okay, so we got the different waiters, and they all have different items. Those different items on the menus are going to represent different functions that the servers perform. So each of these waiters is going to represent an individual server, and each of those servers is going to perform a different task or a different function. So the waiter is going to represent the individual server within the data center or within the restaurant, as we talk about the example. So restaurant represents the data center. The waiter is going to represent the individual server and the functions that they perform. And then the third piece is the customer, right? So the restaurant goer. And then that's going to represent us being on our computers, accessing different applications, requesting different data points, sharing files, all those different tasks that we're performing. That's representing us in the restaurant calling on different waiters with different menu items. Okay. So there's kind of the extent of the idea. So hopefully that's starting to come together. You're starting to see where I'm going with this. And then I do want to talk about a server client relationship a little bit. So, as I mentioned, we have individual servers, and then these clients, that's another way of saying the computers that we're using, right? So that's a client. And the client is requesting different data from the server, different services from the server, and that's just a relationship there, right? So data's flowing. We got a relationship of a client requesting access to data, requesting access to applications, and then the server granting that access, sending it to the client, right? And then let's talk about the common types of servers. So we have a print server. That's a common type of server. And we're looking at a menu here, so bringing it back to the waiter analogy. So imagining a waiter who's got a printing on his menu. Well, we're going to call on the print server. And then we have a mail server. So that's the server that's helping send messages, receive messages, right? So it's managing that process. And these are all things I take for granted, to be honest. So this has been very helpful to me, and been more appreciative of everything that's going into this process of data transferring from the server to the client. An application server is a common type. So just using an example of Microsoft Dynamics, but you think of all the applications out there; those are living on servers. A web server, right? So websites we visit, those are living on a server, right? Again, so much I take for granted just thinking about my day to day and what I do, not realizing so much work has gone into this, so much infrastructure. And while we're really building this thing out as a society, as a people, really, really diving into the IT world. And then a file server. So as we share those files to and fro, there's a file server there, right? A game server. This is a fun one. So any of those online games that you're playing, that your kids are playing, Roblox is the example I used here. There's a game server, right? And not just one, right? These are big games, so there's tons of servers operating these games, making things continuously work. So I'm just gonna kind of bring it back around. So again, it's all about data and how that data flows. It's all about the data has to live somewhere, right? So it's not just randomly placed. It's that's got a spot and that's where it's living. And if we need to access that, we're going to call on that specific server and we're going to be able to use that data. So it's all about data and how it flows from server to client. And then moving forward, let's talk about the different types of data centers. So we have on-prem, aka on premises. Those are servers, those are data centers that are within company walls, right? So the company owns the whole thing, they own the whole process, backing it up, the infrastructure, the support, keeping things running. That's all in house. So that we would call on prem data center. And then we also have the cloud, right? So we're hearing a lot more about the cloud. And what that is basically leasing server space from another company, right? So these are companies, these are Amazons and the Microsofts, the big companies that have this massive infrastructure, all this server space, and other companies are able to lease that, and that's offloading some of those, the backing ups, the maintenance. They're offloading that and just taking advantage of the storage space there. So that's a cloud. And then we move on to the hybrid cloud. So that's kind of the best of both worlds, in my opinion. So you're able to keep those key functions, key servers in house, right? Those must-haves, those mission critical things in house, and then you're able to offload some of that to the cloud. So really managing your resources, I think, most efficiently when you move to the hybrid cloud. And then let's bring it back to the restaurant idea, right? So it can just hopefully help you understand these three types of data center more effectively. So an on-prem, we would call that a restaurant that you have to go in person to order, right? So they got a building. That's the only way you can order food from there. You have to go in person. So that's your on-prem type of data center. And then the cloud would be a restaurant where you can only order online, right? It can only be delivered to you. So you got to go online to order. That's your cloud. And then your hybrid cloud, which most restaurants now, especially after COVID, you can go in person, you can order online. Everything keeps flowing, right? So That's your hybrid cloud, mix of the on-prem and the cloud. So that's it. I do appreciate you taking a few minutes and watching this video. Hope it helped comprehend just a very basic level of what a server is, what it does, and how it interacts with our day to day. So thank you so much for watching. Keep learning, keep striving. There's so much to find out. So hope that helped, and you have a great day.